I'm gonna.
And we're going live right now.
We are live.
Yes.
All right. Hey, this is Vinny Chopra. Welcome everybody. This is Vinney and Beau Show. And I really want to thank Beau for organizing some terrific guests today. Guys, as you know, last week we had great guests. And every week on Friday at 9:30, please go ahead and put the notifications on and get us on your calendar so that you could really be with us and ask us some great questions and get to meet some spectacular guests who will bring so much value to all of you. So thank you, Beau. Good morning, Beau. How are you, bud?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. Ty and I had a great call. Last night we interviewed Carlos Reyes and Sal. Is it Shakir?
Shakir, yeah.
Shakir. These guys started in real estate 5 years ago, and they wholesaled 257 deals last year.
Oh my God!
Amazing.
Yeah.
These guys were amazing. Just like and they basically said it's not rocket science. That they said they just outwork people. That's the bottom line. They're spending $1 million a year just in marketing, but they're making a ton of money. And so kind of like my takeaway from that was that everybody who I know that's successful in real estate, there's one common trait. They're all very passionate and they're all very driven. There's no like secret. Like the guys that are making the money are the guys that are putting in the time to make it, right? Like there's no like secret weapon.
No.
And it's just kind of true, right? It really comes down to it. Yeah. So
Exactly.
let me introduce everybody. Of course, everybody knows Vinny, my co-host. That we do this every Friday morning, and then we brought on Ty, and Ty and I do a show. Oh, we lost you, Vinny. Ty and I do a show every Thursday night, and we've started it after COVID-19, and that's called Survive and Thrive. And we the last 5 Thursdays we've interviewed, just amazing people. And so you guys should plug into that. And then today we have a special guest all the way from Virginia. I met Jim years ago. I took one of his courses on, it was called Bank Elimination Blueprint. It was one of his early courses. And it got me thinking, and it actually helped me create my model on buying out of state and not working with banks and hard money lenders and working with more private money lenders. It's really good. So welcome, Jim.
Good to be with you.
So Jim's background, he was an engineer turned real estate investor, and now he's a full-time real estate investor and mentor. He runs he does a yearly event, and I go to it as often as I can. I think I've been to it 3 times. It's one of the best events to go to. It's held in Virginia, and Jim's a volume. He started as a wholesaler, was doing 100 transactions a year as a wholesaler back in the day, and now he does anywhere from 50 to 70 flips a year, plus buy and holds and a bunch of other stuff, and doing some multifamily. And then you have Ty. Ty's background is he's a real estate broker and investor, wholesaler, and he does a lot of volume. He's been trained by guys like Ron LeGrand, and every time I do a show with him, I learn more about him. He's been trained by some really, really well-known people, and of course Vinny Chopra, multifamily syndicators, bought in over 4,000 units. He's got over a $250 million portfolio. So we're going to actually dive in and ask some good questions today on what the heck's going on, what our thoughts are. So I'm going to first start with Jim. Jim, first question is, how have you changed your business since the coronavirus pandemic started?
Oh boy, that's a good question, Beau. Boy, dig right into the meat of the bone, man. You know what? For me, I sort of hit pause for the moment, Beau, because I think better deals are going to be coming soon.
Yeah.
I really do. So I bought everything I had under contract before coronavirus, including a duplex, a single family, and I've got another house under contract now, but I'm being a little more careful because the ARVs may come down a little bit. I think there's going to be good opportunities in the apartment space that I haven't seen. I'm hoping I can buy something with a decent cap rate and some value add opportunities like Vinney there. So I think there's going to be great opportunities coming, but I've sort of hit pause to watch the market at the moment.
Got it. Vinney, same question. How have you changed your business since the pandemic?
Definitely, I would say that, we are looking forward to picking up some good stuff. We only got 2 deals last year, that $52 million deal and the $35 million deal, Beau, you know of. And we are waiting to get 100. My goal was to pick up over 2 million this year. And we have the equity with the investors because we have sold some assets last year and so forth. So we are waiting, just like Jim said, we are waiting on the sideline. We are underwriting. As a matter of fact, we are getting some deals in Florida. Now we are underwriting, but the numbers have been kind of high. Jim, I'm sure you probably felt the same. The sellers' expectations were high, interest were low. I mean, we got our loan for 3.72%, last year and all that. But the thing is, opportunities will be coming. And I want to tell the audience, I started in the crash of 2007 and 8 with 14 units at $180,000. $180,000 was my first 14 units, guys. And now 4,100 units and 330 million that we have reached. It's because you took, I hope everybody is looking into taking that step into multifamily. I know we got wholesaling, we got all the, multifamily is the one class I think that really will help, like Jim said, and I'm sure Ty might look into, and might be talking about. Yeah.
Hey, I think, Vinney, you've done a great job syndicating, but I think some syndicators got really sloppy. And I think they're going to be selling because they don't know how to manage right now when they can't collect all their rents. I mean, look at the crazy stuff going on with Cardone Capital, for instance, right?
I heard that, Jim. Oh, my gosh. And I just interviewed right now with another podcast show. I was telling them that our balance sheet is so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, we could live through a year and a half and pay all the mortgage and everything and not have to even worry about getting the rents on time. Even though our Florida properties, we collected 92%. 92%. In April. I know May may be different. I don't know. But, and in Orlando area, our other property, 82%. So, Jim, you're right. I think we didn't pay too high. And actually, in one of the property in December, we put 30% down purposely because we were thinking some jitterness in the market. So we didn't want to overextend ourselves. That's the word also.
I'll tell you, right before this hit, Beau, I was negotiating on apartments. And the seller they didn't like my cash price. So we were negotiating seller financing. Yeah. And the seller was going to hold a second for 30%. And I was going to use that as my down payment so I could be in with nothing, right?
Yeah.
But then Corona hit, right at the exact moment when we were ready to ratify, and we never ratified. But I look back now, I think I could go back and buy similar deals at a little bit reduced cash price. I'd go back to cash at this point. So I think opportunities are changing, though I do think creative financing is going to come into play as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Exactly. Now, Ty's writing up a contract right now. I think he's
right now.
He's a deal junkie.
I am.
Ty, your business is mostly wholesale and brokerage. So how are you shifting right now? Is your deal flow increased, or how are you gonna what's your thought process kind of going forward with the existing business model you have?
Love the question. So 2 or 3 things that I want to share is that right now what I'm seeing, I predominantly work in the residential space, and then in that residential space I predominantly work in distress. So what I'm noticing is it's a half market, and it's kind of a term I'm just kind of coming up with. It's a half market in every sense that half of the homeowners are maybe going to be in trouble. They've got layoffs, they've got deferrals, they've lost jobs, gotten completely fired, or just let go, and or they're just not getting their overtime, they're getting their salaries, their base pay is cut down. So half of them are struggling, the other half are actually doing well, they're doing the same. So in the residential space, we've lost half of the market, but there are a lot of buyers that are still buying because there's low interest rates, because obviously it's less competitive. They're not fighting in multiple offer. I'm in San Francisco, Oakland Bay area, just as Vinney is. Beau's obviously from here. He's now in Vegas. But I predominantly work in the East Bay. So I do a lot of Contra Costa, Alameda County, and then even Solano, Sacramento, a little bit of the Central Valley as well. Other parts of the Bay Area too. But one thing here is that we don't have a lot of new inventory. So the fact that we're still very, very low inventory, a lot of new listings that should have came on the market in March and April did not come on the market. So for all of my, anybody that I'm working with, whether it's a regular homeowner, a distressed seller, and or even, a lot of the flippers, the guys that I do wholesale stuff with, and or even stuff that, we acquire ourselves, the prices so far have been pretty stable. There's some flexibility. People may be paying closing costs, things like that. In this, what I again call a half market, the real opportunities, and I just want to connect with what Jim shared and what Vinney shared, and kind of looking forward, the adjustments I'm making is two things. I'm doubling down. So instead of normally I might prospect 2 to 3 hours a day in terms of telephone cold calling. In fact, I'm on the phones. In fact, this is how much I love you, Beau and Vinney, is that I don't break my schedule for anybody in the morning. From 9 a.m. to 12, I'm on the phones prospecting. But because I have such an admiration for you, Vinney, and I love Beau and getting to know you guys, getting to know you, Vinney, I said, yeah, let me come and be on the show. So that's right. Discipline equals freedom. That's exactly right, Beau. So for me, I actually doubled down on my prospecting. So not only do I go from 9 a.m. to 12, I'm getting back on the phones again at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and staying on the phones till 6. A couple nights a week. I don't want to exaggerate. Some nights I'll go till 7 or 8 o'clock, just calling and following up. And right now we're not pushing hard and hard closing. That's not my style at all. My thing is like, hey, are you okay? How are you holding up? This too shall pass. I'm encouraging people. I'm giving people a lot of love and energy, but I'm also reminding them that, hey, I want to be your go-to resource when this passes. So to something that Jim said and Vinney said, again, a half market, I really believe half the homeowners are going to be in trouble. We're going to see notice of defaults and things like that increase. In my I've been buying since 1993, licensed at 21, 22 years old. I've been licensed since 1994. So this is my third cycle.
Wow. In
the 90s, I kicked a lot of ass. I did really, really well. I was gobbling up properties, short sales, distressed stuff, rental, buy and hold, 20% buy and hold guy because interest rates were decent. I think this is the same kind of market. In 07, 08, I'd gotten a little too big for my, my ambitions were much higher than my skill sets and my ability to team build. And so I started doing syndications. I got in some condo conversion deals. I was doing some land development, some infill deals that I had acquired in like 2006, 2007. So you guys kind of know what happened there, right? I levered a bunch of my old, just traditional buy and hold stuff. Yeah, and I really got beat up. So in 07, 08, I had a mop in my hand. I was dealing with trying to clean up my own mess. What I know now, the difference is that really, like, if you are in that situation, you got to cut your losses. And then the other thing I think, again, talking about a half market, we're definitely going to see a lot of syndicators, a lot of GPs, a lot of general partners with the limited partner side of it, a lot of developers, not a lot. I would say, again, I think half of them are probably in trouble because they're popcorn syndicators, meaning they just, boop, I'm going to be a syndicator. And everything's been going well the last 5 or 6 years. They don't take the approach that you take, Vinney, which is like an engineer and really knowing what they're doing and knowing and understanding from a very conservative approach, and, we hear about Grant Cardone. I don't know if it's hype or not, but, we're hearing about it. I'm hearing from other guys that is a passive investor and, has put money into syndication saying he got the Dear John letter. Hey, we're not going to be paying you. So I think that there's going to be more deals in the multifamily space, in the syndicator space, in the fallout. I think commercial lending, banking, that side of it is going to be much tighter. The guidelines are we're already seeing that on the residential side. A lot of commercial lenders aren't lending right now, or kind of like maybe on a hold. I think that's where you're going to see the biggest opportunities in the commercial, the development space, in the syndicator space, is guys that are basically washed out. I think the homeowner space is a little bit more protected because in California, they put a moratorium on foreclosures. They did a nationwide moratorium in foreclosure. That was something in 2010, 08, 09, when the market was free falling. They stopped. Obama and that administration. I'm not politically charged, by the way. I think the government figured out, hey, if we put moratoriums and things in place, it'll stop the free fall. It'll trickle the foreclosures. Therefore, I don't think we see as big of a depreciation. It allows the economy to recover a little bit quicker. But I think the developer space, the syndicator space, that space is definitely very, very vulnerable. I think half of them are going to potentially be in trouble.
Ty, I really want to applaud you. Like you started to say that, you got doubling down. I mean, that is humongous. A lot of people, they say, okay, I got this situation, and they will not put more effort to sustain. And that's what really impresses me, what you just said, that the time with the prospect, with the investors, like I teach in my my team and all that, investors are jittery with the market, with everything happening. So now is the time to share with them the diversification. If they were even thinking to get into multifamily, in my case, like that, or senior living, which is my new gig. We might talk about it a little bit today, about development and all that, which is going bonkers. I mean, this is something which is needed. So, no, I appreciate you sharing your comments that you're doubling down. Time spent with the prospect and with the investor is the best time ever we can spend. And guess what? They're home. There is no gatekeeper. There's no secretary to go through, anytime.
It's so true, Vinny, everybody, it's like a breath of fresh air. Normally, I do a lot of phone prospect. That's been my kind of golden goose, if you will. The foundation of I learned that when I was young. Yeah. I'm good on the phones. I love people. I want to share and add value. I'm not there to just get and try to talk people into doing stuff. But the big thing is that, over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it's been tougher and tougher. Just people don't want to be bothered and interrupted, and people are more sensitive. Yeah. Whereas now what's happened is it's a breath of fresh air, because it's 99% of all the news, social media, not all social media, but a lot of the stuff out there about COVID-19 and Corona and all of this, it's so negative. The world is spinning with so much negativity and, people being upset about it. So when I'm calling somebody and reaching out and giving them a kind of a burst of energy and just giving them some love and some certainty, it's uplifting and refreshing. So people have responded tremendously to me. So thank you for that, Vinny.
No. And I think it's kind of my passion now is that although I'm not where I want to be with my real estate investments, at the end of the day, I see the real light at the end of the tunnel. Jim and I were texting back and forth about this morning. 4 in 10 adults, if faced with an unexpected expense of $400, would either not be able to cover it or would cover it by selling something or borrowing money. This is from the Federal Reserve, May of 2018. Now we can see this. We're seeing this with businesses. We're seeing this. Think about just what 3 or 4 weeks has done to so many people. Nobody has reserves. This is a rude awakening for me, along with millions and millions of people, right? The key is you have to have reserves. No matter what, you have to have 6 to 12 months of reserves. For every property, you should have at least 6 months of reserves sitting in an account. As real estate investors, we're always trying to leverage, always trying to do the next deal, but we have to think and have these reserves. And for the normal Joe that doesn't own anything, is renting, it's a sad fact that in our country that so many people don't have haven't been taught the basic concepts. And I applaud Jim and Vinny also, who are mentoring a lot of people, especially Jim, because he works with a lot of like single family people on how to create wealth with real estate, right? Like, because during this time, even if I only collect rent on 60 or 70% of what I should be on my portfolio, I'm still making money, right? Without having to do much, right? And so now if I had the portfolio, 5 years from now, I should have a bigger portfolio where that's gonna cover me forever, right? I don't really need to do much more. I mean, and that's what, like, Jim really does a good job of teaching people, even with, basically just getting started, right, Jim? You're able to kind of give them step by step practical things on how they can actually get started in real estate and create some net worth, right? We got to create net worth. And Jim has a partner, Daniel, and they have a program, and Daniel always talks about the FU wall, right? Like, build a fortress around yourself. So when times like this come, you're not the one going down. You're the one thinking, okay, how am I going to pivot, and how am I going to, reap the rewards from me being prepared? And I think that's kind of huge. Jim, will you talk on that for a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, but this thing hit so fast. I mean, think about it, guys. It's like 30 days ago, for 35, 40 days ago, life was quasi normal. Yeah. Like, I was in Tennessee like March 13th, and that's when like all hell broke loose. It wasn't that long ago. So like, if there are people watching right now that don't have the cash reserves because you're always leveraging, always scaling, always growing, I mean, I don't blame them. I love to leverage and scale and grow too. It just hit so fast that people didn't have time to react. And I think it is a good time to pivot, Beau, and I'm glad you brought that up. You always talk, Beau, about the 100% club, the 200% club. Remember, for years you've been telling me that. And that is just something like an easy goal that everybody can go after. And don't get me started on goals, because they've all changed in 2020 in 3 months.
Well, that leads me into the next question. What are you focusing on now and over the next 6 to 12 months?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to be ready for apartments. So access to capital, network. Right now, the biggest asset you have is your network. I always say your network is your net worth. Get it ready. Get it primed and ready. I don't know what market's going to be best. I'd like to talk to you guys about that. I don't know where the real opportunities are going to be, but I don't know if it's going to be like a quick down and a quick up. Or, Beau, we've talked about everything from that to the Great Depression, you and I have. So it's going to be somewhere in between, right? I don't know where, but whatever the opportunity is, I want to be ready.
I know we did talk about, right, Beau? We had some of the podcasts where I was saying it's going to be a V, like going down and up, but it's not going to be straight up, I think, Jim, and people talking. It might be like a swoosh, like a Nike symbol, Yeah. But it's not going to be a U, like the long U, I think Beau also mentioned, where it's in certain areas, to be truthful, if you look at it, certain metro areas in the 2007, 8, 9, it took them a couple of years to get back up. But in this particular COVID situation, it may be more like it's gone down like crazy bad, but then it's going to come back up as people start working, money starts coming. I think apartments, the NOIs, it's going to take time to get the rents back, but we should be able to really sustain that NOI. I'm thinking in our portfolio, maybe in the next 6 months, let's say, maximum. But if you have your cash flow, right, we are able to forbear this and that mortgage and some of the vendors and all that stuff. And, the small business loan is gone. Oh my God, 348 billion gone in 13 days, I heard, right? So we need to get another 700 billion more or something. But I don't know where that money went. I don't know if that's a discussion, who got that money. And but multifamily, Jim, like you just said, definitely always has given the cushion. The cushion is the big one. Even in the downfall of 2007, 8, and 9, or whatever around there, the foreclosures were less. And so I don't know if too many foreclosures will happen. I know, Ty, you think, and Jim, you also think, but maybe you're right. In the last couple of years, we have had some novice investors and syndicators come in the play, to be truthful. I didn't buy anything in 2008. I couldn't. I just couldn't. everybody was paying, overbidding, and they were trying to, margins were so small. But then I think you're right. Maybe those will be really hurting as something's happened, with the mortgages not being able, and they're not going to be forgiven. I mean, you have to pay them back.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. So no, thank you for sharing. I think, what do you think then, like in the emerging markets, you mentioned, Jim, right? What's your thinking? Where would it?
I don't know. I was messing. I go back to Beau a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, what areas are going to have the highest peaks of unemployment?
Mm-hmm.
I asked Beau about Las Vegas, like what's going to happen there, because it's all hospitality. You know what I mean?
Must. Yeah, I know.
So I don't know. I don't know how soon things will come back and where those areas are. I'm kind of curious to watch it as well.
I mean, none of us have a crystal ball. If we did, we wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be on an island somewhere.
Yeah.
But I applaud you guys, and as I'm looking at you guys on the screen, I'm thinking, you guys all have very similar traits, and I can see why I like you guys, because Jim's always sharing his books he's reading, as long with Vinney, and same thing with Ty. You guys are all driven, right? You're all into personal development. I think that's the common outlay Vinney and I always talk about. It's like, regardless what's going on in the world, okay, if you just keep positive, you'll work through any issue that comes. Even if you're in a bind right now, you'll work it through. I've been so stressed out before about deals that are going bad, and it's like, at the end of the day, all you have to do is focus and work your way through any kind of thing. Because in real estate, there's always going to be something that pops up. You're always going to have, issues with contractors, and you're going to always have people that aren't paying, and you just got to keep positive and moving forward. Now, the next question, I'll start with Ty. Ty, how will the pandemic affect society going forward, as far as the gig economy? Like, I think there's a major shift happening, and this kind of sparked the fire, meaning people are going to start working out of their house more. We're going to start using Zoom more. There's going to be electronic notaries now, which there already are. So it's going to be different. And so what do you foresee in the next 5 years changing?
I would say that, I think definitely we're going to see some shifts behaviorally. I don't know that they necessarily, I don't think things go back to normal right away. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. I think that everything kind of hinges on the vaccine. And I don't want to negate or sound like conspiracy theory or any of that, but I do have strong opinions about what's going on, and that it is very serious. Obviously, like, just to give you an idea, like in our family, my cousin's grandmother has been in and out of the hospital for the last 3 months. She had hip surgery. She's in her 90s. We're very sensitive to make sure nobody's going to visit her. She got tested for COVID. She's had pneumonia. And I say that only because my next statement is, I've even got a cousin who has a small daughter who's just like maybe 18, 20 months old, who's went through chemotherapy, is at Children's Hospital. They've been there for the last several months. So in my family, we're incredibly sensitive to the COVID-19. We wouldn't want to bring it or spread it or any of that, God forbid, right? So I'm also going to share, though, so that the other side, what my belief is here is that I think that once they get a vaccine, I think that we really can get back to normal. The thing that, we're propagating the number of deaths, and I don't know what the death count is now, but, when they show those deaths, I'd also like to see how many deaths are by the regular flu, right? How many deaths are by car accidents? Yeah. How many suicides did we have? I don't know those numbers, by the way. I know the flu number. I've seen numbers that are like 20,000 to 60,000 a year in the U.S. based on our, that's since 2010. So my thought is that I think a little bit, in some ways, it's a little bit of an overreaction. It's good. It's better to be cautious. In my opinion, I think we overreacted a little bit, just a little bit. And remember, again, my family, I'm dealing with people that are sick in my family that are vulnerable. So I think it's a bit of overreaction. I think that somebody's going to have 2 or 3 pharmaceuticals are probably going to have breakthroughs. We're going to see, some kind of vaccines and some kind of treatments and things like that. I think the gig economy is going to come back. I think this remote working is probably going to definitely be more of a thing. I think the convenience of it, we're all sitting in our homes right now and, it's super convenient. But I also don't think that all of a sudden, like Manhattan goes vacant, 40% vacancies, or San Francisco Peninsula, Silicon Valley goes, even 15%. I think that we're going to still see the areas keep move. I think we're going to see those areas still continue to hold jobs. I think we're going to see the job market still be very, very strong in those markets. Maybe some remote working that would be convenient. Also, too, I just, to Jim and kind of a previous thing you were talking about is I think absolutely the tourism markets are absolutely hit the hardest. So I think, if you look at places like Orlando or places like, again, I don't know, like Las Vegas, resort, like say I have a good friend of mine, Greg Harrelson. He's in South Carolina in Myrtle Beach. So it's a very much a tourism. Their whole spring season was canceled. Jeff Quinton, who is in New Jersey, he's in the Jersey Shore, Ocean City, same thing, tourist resort market. Those areas are definitely going to see a much faster. Again, I think it's a V though, because I think tourism comes back. I just think it's a sharp down and a pretty, not necessarily that it comes back to where it was, but I think those areas recover. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, it looks like we've had 2,227,000 cases, 669 worldwide,
Mhm.
and 150,625 deaths. And then if you talk about the USA, we're at total cases of 685,000. So, I mean, we have one of the highest.
Yeah.
New cases today was a little under 8,000. New deaths today, a little under 900 today.
But that's because we've done more testing than anybody else too.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, right. I think we are seeing more tests being done, so more reporting we are finding out in certain other parts of the world. They have not done the testing, so those numbers are. I know in Spain and all, I think it's kind of plateaued. Is that right? I hear on there, Japan also, it's been plateaued. I know in the numbers, maybe somebody can say or text us on the chat us, like in China, we don't want to talk about, but in Wuhan, I heard that there are several hundred thousands of deaths happen. But again, we don't know.
Right.
But, again, unless in that economy, we don't really know what really happened. And so forth, the computer chips are missing and all that with the cell phones and all that stuff. But what you're saying, Ty, is exactly how I feel the same way. Very similarly, that the behavior will change. I think a lot of people are finding that we can accomplish business. We may not need to be in the cubicle, for 5 days a week, 10, 12 hours, but, and also on the freeways. I think it's better on the freeways. I think I'm telling somebody that freeways saying, thank God, not too many cars on me, or whatever, right? How you look at it.
You guys think people are going to want to move out of the big cities like New York City? What's going to happen in Manhattan? Will there become real estate deals there?
So
what are you guys thinking?
Jim, are you familiar with the guy, what's his name? Jason Hartman. He's a real estate guy, and you know who he is?
I know who he is. I don't know him.
Okay. Well, I didn't get the call, but the gist of his thing is, and he seems like a very smart guy. I mean, he's done a lot of deals.
I saw he was doing that yesterday, I believe. Yeah.
And so
genius. Yeah.
I think his message is that he sees a big shift in migration patterns where people are going to start leaving.
I was wondering.
Because, I mean, like for me, I migrated to Nevada. It's like a third the price, and I like it here. And it just made sense. And I know what I do, lending, I can talk on the phone. I don't need to go see people. Exactly. So for me, I bought this, house for $380,000 in Walnut Creek. It would have been 1.3 million. I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. No state tax. You're starting to see that. You're definitely going to see that. And 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I started seeing that shift from California to, I mean, California's beautiful and got the best beaches, and yes, it's amazing. But for people like me and like my parents, like they're like, okay, well, we can go. Since I moved, they live close to me in California. They said, well, we're going to go live next to your brother in California, in Orange County, right? Or we're going to come live next to you. And of course, they would probably prefer Orange County. But when they looked at it from a financial perspective, they would have spent a ton of money in Orange County versus they could come buy a house here for, $400,000, where in Orange County it would have been 900,000 plus. So there's a ton of people that don't have enough money in their bank and don't have enough passive income, that there's got to be a shift. And since everything is becoming a gig economy, I mean, they're going to eventually connect the high-speed train from LA to Las Vegas. So if you can only commute in for 1 or 2 days a week on the high-speed train for 2 hours, right? So I actually think Vegas is more poised to grow, right now than ever, because we're getting away from just being a hospitality city, and we're getting diversification here. And when you look like on the West Coast, what are your options? Arizona, Phoenix is the fastest growing city in the nation, I believe. And so you got places, people are moving to Arizona, Washington, Oregon, Nevada. So you're going to see migration there. And then, Virginia, people probably live in Virginia because it's a nice place. Or they're going to move to a place like Florida, right?
Carolinas. Yep.
Carolinas and Florida for sure.
For sure. And as you know, like when we went there, just to some people know that we purchased in Orlando, we are very big on that one, Jim and Ty, and we are also doing senior livings. By the way, it's interesting. That's the other aspect.
Yeah.
That's the silver tsunami has already started in this country. 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 every single night. At midnight, 10,000 people become 65 plus. So there is a big demand coming for adult living, for assisted senior living, because as people are getting in the 80s and 85s and 90 years, so things like that, right? So I think, all that Southeast and the Northwest, and also, like you said, Nevada, of course, Salt Lake City, Provo, Utah, all that, there's a lot of places that will see things happening where demographical shift will be there, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is we've been going for a good amount of time, kind of wind up, and I'd like to invite everybody back next month around this time, because I want to see what happens in May. Okay, that's going to be the big indicator. What happens to tenants paying the rent, right? Because right now, nationally, everybody's saying, 30% of people in the residential space, it's not that high, right? It might be, I don't know, 9% drop, naturally.
That article is very misleading.
Yeah. So let's wait and see. Get everybody back here, same group here, May 16. Then we'll
1 month from now. Yeah, 1 month.
1 month from now. Now, Jim, tell us about Dealmaker 2020 and now Dealmaker 2021.
Sure.
Well, I haven't really started marketing yet, but I do have the sign. I just don't feel it's appropriate time to market hard for live events. Can you imagine life without social distancing? We got to do virtual high fives, hugs. No, Dealmaker 2021 is late February 2021, and Dealmaker 2020 was in early February before this mess hit. And we talked a lot about Black Swan, market shift, cash reserves. I mean, the speakers we had, Beau, were, as you know, many of them were really spot on with some of their cautions on the market coming up. We just nobody knew it was going to hit this fast, this hard from a virus you can't even see.
Yeah, you never know. But it seems like that's the way it always works. There's always something that like people go, I didn't like the .com crash or whatever. Yeah. Everybody does. And the thing is that you never know, right? You never know when something's going to come.
You don't.
I mean, this is like one of the, since what the swine flu or something.
100 years,
yeah. I mean, so but it's got a lot of people worried. I mean, when I go to the grocery store now and I see all these people with masks on and like gloves, it freaks me out. It's like a horror movie. But Jim, then how can people follow you? You got a Facebook group, you got.
Yeah, I mean, real estate investor success on Facebook. Dealmaker2021.com is open. I haven't been pushing it. But yeah, I mean, just find me on Facebook or wherever.
What's one book you read? What's been your best book you've read in the last couple weeks or months?
I've been reading 3 books, Beau, but none of them are really business books per se. One's called Upstream, I believe it is, and it's on solving big problems by getting really to the root cause of problems. Like it took an example where they had a teenage addiction problem in Iceland and how they solved that to get kids off of addiction. That kind of, so it's a different kind of book. And so, yeah, I'm reading some books. I always do. I just always constantly reading. And I think that, and Audible, so always.
Ty, what about you?
What am I reading? Actually, this is a really good book. That's a great question. This is one of my favorites. This is How to Build a Real Estate Empire.
Oh, wow.
And
you could write that book, Ty.
Yeah, for sure. This was put out by Marcus and Millichap, the commercial brokerage.
Yeah.
And so here's the inside of it.
I'm going to get it. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, you might have. I don't think it's like on Amazon though. I think
Okay, yeah.
through Marcus and Millichap, and it's a really good book. It's a bunch of small stories of guys that have,
Sure.
huge empires, basically guys like Vinney.
Yeah.
It's just basically guys like
Maybe
So,
ask me what book I'm reading. I'll say this one.
yeah.
I've got that book. I've read it. I like it.
Syndication.
I gave you a review. Yeah.
No,
I love it.
I'm reading this one, Beau, right there. The Miracle Equation. Just a great,
I like that book too.
from Al Rod. Of course, there are a lot of great books out there. I think,
Great one.
again, this is the time when we have more time, maybe because of not traveling and not going in the car 2 hours and all, and coming back home. So we do have time to personal development, and this is the perfect time to really feed our mind. I always say that we spend, now we are not going to restaurants, but we spend hundreds and, dollars in eating out for the mouth down, but we should spend money mouth up.
Yeah. Right
Well
on.
said, Vinny.
I'm reading, or actually I just bought this book on Audible. I don't know how I got it, but I was looking and then I'm like, I just pulled the trigger because I have like a certain amount of credits.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I haven't started it yet, but it's by Donald Miller. It's called Marketing Made Simple.
Oh,
Step-
wow.
So, as you kind of figure out life, I kind of figure out what I'm good at, and marketing is really what I'm like to do the most, right? So
Me
now
too.
I'm trying to figure out, because we were talking to Carlos and Sal yesterday, and they're both like 50-50 partners, and they work together so far that they have a great relationship. So, but one of them is an integrator and the other one is
Visionary.
And so
Good
I
point.
definitely, yeah. So it's like, you figure out where you're at, and then like you guys are both engineers. So you guys have a good marketing side, which is both you and Vinny, because most engineers are just completely dry. They don't
I
have
had to retrain my brain, Beau.
Yeah. And like to think Vinny is an engineer, because he's so, now he's all the way on this side. So it's crazy,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Life's
But-
better on the other side.
Beau, that was the right step I took when I came to my MBA, when I came to USA.
Yeah.
I'm so glad, and I've never looked back. I worked very hard, 5 years actually. In India, you have to go to school 5 years to do your engineering degree. But then I said, you know what? Oh, let's put it in a box. And then, being in sales, marketing, motivation, that has really changed my life. And I really enjoy that. I think, that's the key. You got to enjoy what you're
I
doing.
agree.
You really have passion, at what tender age we are at. We want to just be very thankful to what's happening, even though COVID is happening, but hopefully people will, survive and everything. And I know, it's bad, but let's just, try to see how we can pass through it, right? It will pass.
Ty, any departing words here?
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited when this social distancing thing kind of gets lifted. That I would love to get together with everybody. Obviously,
Me too.
but I'd love to see Vinny. Vinny, you're in Blackhawk, and I'm up Green Valley near Napa. So we just Beau come out, and I can't wait to get together and do live events, and the bar camp, and what you do is awesome, Beau. I love how you bring these together. Vinny, thank you for having me as a guest.
Oh my God.
No, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Like you said,
Thank you.
your time. I hope you get great prospects, great, as you start dialing again. And it's Friday, and I'm sure it's gonna be good. I'm in a more juvenile mode today, Thank you again. Thank you.
All right. So next Friday or next month, this time we'll come back. We're gonna check. We're gonna check and see where we're at. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Thank you.
See you guys later.
See ya. Bye bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.